The message I'm talking about publicly these days will not be allowed to have that kind of airtime. That's not going to happen. That's a fact of life. The evidence that I bring to the table regarding the deception of global warming is real, scientific, verifiable evidence. They don't want that to be in the public domain, in the mass media. Of course, I'm in the public domain right now, talking to all of you out there, but they certainly don't want it in the mass media. I was on Fox News nationwide twice, talking about terrorism after 9/11/01, working with a young female executive producer up in New York City. We did our first show, and it was well received and got good ratings. We talked about a concept for a second one, and we did that, and it was well received. Then I spoke to her following the second show. I said, well, let's get serious about this. Let's talk about the feel-good, make-believe, non-existent security at our airports. And I explained enough detail to let her know what I was wanting to talk about, which, of course, was and is verifiable, backed up by solid evidence. She says, John, I'll talk to my boss. She did. She got back with me the next day. She says, I'm sorry. It's too scary. We can't talk about that. I'm sorry. It's too scary. We can't talk about that. I haven't done any more nationwide shows with Fox News since then. That was the end of that. The mass media is controlled. If you think otherwise, you're living in a fantasy land. The mass media is controlled. There's things they can talk about and things they can't talk about. One thing they can't and won't talk about is the eligibility of the President of the United States to be president, Hussein Obama. Another thing they can't and won't talk about is the topic of my DVD, Global Warming, What the Government Isn't Telling You, that it's a massive fraud and a massive deception to conceal and obfuscate. To conceal and obfuscate the real story, which is that violent climate change is upon us and will continue to become more violent, along with more volcanism and more seismic activity, eventually culminating in a pole shift where these oceans come out of their basins, causing dramatic, violent, deadly flooding on all coastal areas and the Mississippi Valley in North America. That's not going to be allowed to be presented on mainstream media. Another thing the mainstream media is not going to talk about, despite the evidence of it being all around us, the second most important story in 2,000 years, the Gulf Stream, World War II, nuclear material getting loose in Japan, the economy collapsing, swine flu. None of these things even come close to the Gulf Stream stopping. That's how important it is. And mainstream media is ignoring the matter. Now, the climatologists, the weathermen and the weatherwomen, they will go this far. They'll say, the jet stream is doing things we've never seen the jet stream do before. They'll go that far. Now, if they're an experienced meteorologist, they know the Gulf Stream stopped. It's part of their training is to observe the Gulf Stream. It's part of the climate of the planet. In fact, Dr. Luigiani Zangari, a PhD scientist working on the Gulf Stream in Italy, along with other scientists in North America and Europe. Here's a quote from Dr. Zangari. The Gulf Stream is the pacemaker of the climate of the planet. Now, those are very strong words. Very strong words. The Gulf Stream is the pacemaker of the climate of the planet. When you go to my website, I have an article there. It's posted. Anybody can read it, no charge, titled The Gulf Stream Has Stopped. It's just over 3 pages. It goes a little bit into the 4th page. Short and to the point. And I give the scientific evidence right there in the form of the United States Navy website. The United States Navy publishes a brand new map every 24 hours. I was told by a Navy veteran they may update it even more frequently, but I know it's updated at least every 24 hours. showing the sea surface temperatures of all the oceans of the planet. You can see the Gulf Stream. It comes up between Cuba and Florida, up the east coast of Florida, past Georgia, past South Carolina, up to North Carolina, gets around Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, and starts going east by northeast. Used to go all the way up to Long Island, and even farther north, before it started going east by northeast. You can look right there at the Navy map. You can see the Gulf Stream starts heading towards England, Ireland, Scotland, gets out a couple hundred miles, starts doing a loop-to-loop, and kind of peters out to nothing. That's what happened. That's what's going on right now on April the 12th, 2011. I gained a lot of credibility when the paper I wrote in 2005, published in January 2006, and the paper I wrote came true. In my paper, No Need for Panic, I stated that the Gulf Stream had lost 35% of its mass and velocity, and the scientists were predicting 5 to 20 years in the future it would stop. Well, guess what? It was 5 years. The introduction of those millions and millions and millions of barrels of oil is what shut down the Gulf Stream permanently. According to Dr. Zangari, permanently. It's not going to restart. I sometimes joke about taking 3 U.S. Navy aircraft carriers, putting them at anchor and putting the screws on full speed to get the Gulf Stream restarted out there in the Atlantic Ocean. That's a fantasy. The Gulf Stream is not going to restart. What does that mean? It means dramatic changes in weather worldwide, not for the better. It means that precipitation will become unpredictable. It means that the grain growing areas will get either too much precipitation or not enough. We're seeing both extremes. It means that grain growing areas will have temperatures too high or temperatures too low. We're seeing both extremes. It will mean that grain production will be dramatically impacted and reduced, leading to dramatically higher prices. We're already seeing that, aren't we? The combination of dramatically increased petroleum product prices and dramatically increased, decreased, I should say, grain production is going to mean phenomenal increases in the price of food. That's what it means. This one event, the Gulf Stream stopping, this will change our planet forever in terms of human lifetimes. This will change our planet forever in human terms, because it's going to have an adverse, and already is having, adverse impact on the grain growing areas. Grains are what feed the people. Grains are what feeds the animals. Corn, wheat, rice, soybeans, spelt, oats, barley, flax. It's a long list of grains, ladies and gentlemen. A long list of grains that feed the people and feed the animals. Go to the Chicago Board of Trades. You want some evidence what's going on with these food prices? Go to the Chicago Board of Trades and look at the future grain prices. They're going up dramatically, and they will continue to grow up dramatically. Whoever does the shopping for food in your household, they've known this for 2 or 3 years at least, that not only have prices been going up, but packaged food containers have been getting smaller in an attempt to make it look like you're getting more value for your money. That's what's going on.